Hello, Gemini, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot, and my name is Laura. These will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of April 2022. And this reading will be for Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And as always, before we get into the actual card reading, do keep in mind that the reading is general in nature, so not everything that comes through will pertain to you. So definitely take anything and everything that resonates for you, however that applies to your specific situation. Keep in mind anything that might be helpful, and you can simply leave the rest. So Gemini, happy spring. We're finally in April. I hope that March was good to you. I'm excited to see what April has in store so we can help you feel empowered to make the most of the energy that is likely to come up. And I'm going to start off the reading by sharing the channeled messages with you. So before I actually sat down and got your oracle cards out, I did take some time to channel some messages. Then we'll read your oracle cards, we'll pull some tarot and clarifiers, finish off with affirmations, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. After affirmations, I'm actually going to pull one last oracle card, and instead of interpreting those in depth as I do with the cards at the beginning, I'm just going to read directly from the guidebook, and we'll see what kind of advice is in there, what kind of details to help kind of tie everything together, just because that's a practice that I like to use when I'm actually reading for people one-on-one. So I figured I'd start incorporating that as a nice way to end the reading. So we will get started with your channeled messages. So I have to say, as I start connecting with the energy, like as I'm kind of doing my rituals, setting the space, setting my intentions, getting the cards ready. And so I've got it's the same ritual I do for, every reading. It takes about, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes or so. And it's funny because by now it's habit, but when I was sitting down to do your reading, I found that I was really distracted and I kept losing my place. While I was shuffling, I kept forgetting to say my intentions, or it was kind of challenging. And even just physically shuffling, I shuffle cards all the time, and it was just really troublesome. So it took so much attention for me to shuffle the cards properly because I was having such a hard time that I couldn't focus on actually saying my intentions, and the whole thing took forever. So I'm not sure. You might be in this energy, or you might find that this month it is particularly difficult for you to multitask, or maybe there are things that you do quite often that generally don't take a lot of effort or attention, and that you are finding to be a bit more difficult, or you need to focus a little bit more, or areas where you would normally be able to multitask, you're running into some challenges. If you do run into that energy, I would just say try to kind of simplify things for yourself. Do whatever you can to make it easier, because chances are if you are running into a problem like that, even if it's something that you don't normally encounter, it's probably just needing to slow down. It might not be ideal, but just keep that in mind if that makes any sense to you. But yeah, definitely I was struggling to do two things at once, even though those things kind of went hand in hand. So haven't had that issue with any of my other readings. So yeah, something to keep in mind. And so funnily enough, on that note, the first message that came through was one thing at a time. And so yeah, so this month it might be really beneficial for you to just do yourself a favor, focus on whatever task is at hand, give it your full time and attention, and see that through to completion until before you start another task. Because even now, I just feel really jumbled. So it could even just be having a lot on the go, having a lot of priorities and a lot of things that need to get done, and trying to do a little bit of everything at the same time. And then your energy just kind of ends up scattered. Your focus is scattered. You'll forget about things. And then it's you can spend a whole day kind of exhausting yourself, and you've done a little bit of everything, but nothing has gotten done. So you don't have that sense of accomplishment. So that could be part of part of this energy. So yeah, I would just say like try to simplify things for yourself so that you can be in the present moment and focused on like one thing at a time. If you need to make a list and like cross things off the list. But yeah, I get the sense that like you might be very easily distracted. There might be a number of things competing for your attention. And it will be up to you to kind of find a way to manage that, to keep those other things at bay so that you can kind of just get one thing done at a time. If you're used to being like on the go and having a bunch of balls in the air and being like highly productive, it can be difficult to commit to just slowly one thing at a time, but it kind of feels like that might be the energy or the theme this month. So something to keep in mind. The next thing that came through was windsurfing. Like I got this image of a person on like a windsurfing board. So like a big board with like the sail, right? Holding onto it and like sailing across the water. So I don't know if that's an actual thing. Maybe that's something that you do. It might be a hobby, something that you're looking forward to. It could be a vacation that someone might do, or sorry, an activity that someone might do on vacation. It could also be more like a metaphor for kind of like sailing your own boat, even kind of finding the path of least resistance, right? So finding a way to use the resources and the energy that's available to you, so that you are not expending so much effort, right? So the idea of like sailing is using the wind, right? Instead of having to power it yourself. So that could be also a metaphor for trying to make your life a little bit, make things smooth, sailing for yourself. The next thing that came through was February, and I didn't get the sense like, you know, looking forward to February or a certain date. The energy that I got around it was kind of like being stuck on something from February. So it could have been an event, it could have been an interaction, it could have been something that happened. I didn't get the sense that it was necessarily like a very positive thing. It's not like, yeah, it's kind of like there's just something, maybe something that's unresolved, maybe something that happened in February that wasn't good, wasn't ideal, and you've been kind of like, it's kind of been a thorn in your side, it's been irritating you, you haven't quite moved through whatever that is, but there is a sense of like annoyance or something like that. So I'm not sure, it might be worth kind of taking a look back at what happened with in February and with the people that you're dealing with, because it could be friends, family, significant other, it could be something to do with work, some kind of conflict, some kind of loss. But yeah, like I kind of get the sense that maybe some of your energy is still stuck on that. And it could be draining you a little bit, or it might be preventing you from moving forward. So it might be worth checking in with yourself if that resonates for you. The next thing that came through was Amazing Grace. So obviously that could be like the song. Maybe that song has some kind of significance to you. As always with songs, if you feel so inclined, it might be helpful to listen to them or to read the lyrics. So that might already have some kind of significance to you. It could just be also like trying to, you know, be graceful in the things that you're doing, especially if you feel like you're coming up against challenges or you're dealing with difficult people, situations where you're being tested. It might be like a main point of focus, or maybe even a struggle for you to conduct yourself with grace or to move through things gracefully. So yeah, I have no idea. That's all I've got for that one. The next thing that came through was not so much a word, but it was kind of like a vision. And so I got a vision of this person. It was kind of like the spooky woods. Like it was like a dark forest, and it was like foggy. Yeah, so foggy and dark, and there were a bunch of dead trees, and it's like trying to navigate your way through. And so like the sense that I got is like, yeah, things are dark, things are foggy, things are kind of maybe even a little like scary or uncomfortable, and it's like trying to navigate your way through that kind of situation blind. So maybe feeling like you don't have the information that you need or the resources that you need to navigate or to have like clarity or to feel safe making certain decisions. But yeah, that was a really interesting one. So it was kind of like this vision and a feeling along with it. So maybe feeling like you're walking into a situation blind, or maybe just struggling to get clarity in terms of like what you're going to be focusing on and what you're supposed to be doing. So however that resonates for you, if it does. The next thing that came through made me laugh is grown-ass woman. And so I feel like that could be your energy, and you don't have to be female, but it could be your energy, like you're a grown-ass woman, you know, you do your own work, you take responsibility for your stuff, you show up and you put the work in, and you're expecting other people to show up on that level. And so it could be that like it could be dealing with a less mature energy that's challenging for you, and like just wondering why people can't like pull up their socks and be a grown-ass woman. It could also be like you know, in terms of like friendships and relationships, it's like, yeah, like looking for somebody to kind of like meet you on that level. It's like you don't want to waste your time with children who play petty games and who, you know, throw temper tantrums and create drama and like shift blame. Like you want to be dealing with grown-ass women, grown-ass people who are going to do what needs to be done and be productive and healthy and mature. So that's very much the vibe I got. I don't know how that might apply to your situation. The next thing that came through was relevance. And so I kind of get the sense this month that if you do have a lot on the go, or if you are feeling like really very much distracted, there might be a lot of things on your radar that aren't necessarily relevant, that don't necessarily really need to be taking your time and attention. So this might be a month of really focusing in on like what your priorities are, what things are most meaningful, what things are going to help you to continue to grow and develop, and what things are just kind of like extra noise. It's like think about it like clutter, right? So spring cleaning, if you will, just taking a look at all that junk that's hanging around in your life that is taking up space in your mind, or, you know, maybe draining your energy that doesn't necessarily need to be there. You're not going to miss it if it's gone, but its presence is going to be draining on you. So there might be, a focus on just trying to surround yourself with the most relevant things, people, concerns, so that you can make the most of the energy that you do have. And also, I think too, I would say like in interpersonal situations and when making decisions, it's making sure that you're focusing on the most relevant details. And so that means like trying not to overthink, overcomplicate things, trying not to project yourself too far into the future. Like just kind of trying to focus on the information that you do have, the facts that you do have, the things that you know for yourself. The things that are relevant, and kind of shutting yourself off from all the other kind of irrelevant noise that isn't necessarily going to support you in making the decision that's best for you. The next thing that came up was for the good of all. So there's very much a sense of either trying to unite a group of people, trying to appease a group of people, trying to find compromise, trying to determine, you know, so it's like, yeah, trying to ensure that there's harmony. So this could be in like friendships, relationships, and the workplace, family, and it's basically trying to take everyone's needs into consideration and balance them out so that everyone can be happy. Nobody's feeling excluded or, stepped on, and yeah, just trying to find a solution that's going to benefit everybody. So that could be a challenge. The next thing that came through was unconventional wisdom. So I don't know necessarily how that might apply to you. It might be something as simple as trusting your own intuition. It could be receiving advice or support or coaching from someone or something unexpected or that you wouldn't normally connect with, or, trying an unconventional method. So for example, if you're somebody who kind of has one way of doing things and it's like tried and true and you don't normally deviate from that, it might be like doing something completely different and finding that might work for you. So there's so many different types of wisdom that we can connect with. So yeah, there might be the sense that like perhaps this month you might be connecting with something a little bit more unconventional, and it might, open your eyes up a little bit to maybe something that you hadn't considered in the past that would help you in terms of navigating life and making decisions. And like I said, it could be just even something as simple as being more aware of your own intuition and that kind of stuff. The next thing that came through was giving it a shot. So it's kind of like the sense that I got is like, might as well, because like there's nothing to lose. So if there's a situation that you've been kind of unsure about, like if it's something that's worth your time or if it's going to be fruitful or not, I think it's kind of about being flexible in terms of how you define success. So for example, like success isn't always about winning. Sometimes it's just about having experience, and it's not necessarily that you're meant to, like for example, if you were to start a business, right? And ultimately that business were to fail or you had to kind of shut down, it's not a loss. It's still a success because, you went through all of that work, you learned those lessons, you have a completely different perspective and a new set of skills. And so it's kind of recognizing that sometimes we kind of determine if things are worth our time and effort by painting them as like black or white. And it's basically like, if there's something if this resonates for you, if there's something that you're debating on, it's kind of like you might as well give it a shot, because at the very least you're going to have an experience, and that experience is probably going to have something to offer you. Whether or not you get the desired result that you want, I think that's probably not the focus. It's the focus is like what you can get, and it's like if there's nothing to lose, then you might as well have the experience. So if that makes sense, I would be curious. And then to follow up on that, which actually goes really nicely, the next thing that came through was experience is the best teacher. And so I think a lot of times we can get caught up in like book learning and theory and, trying to be very safe and smart about the decisions that we make, trying to set ourselves up for success so that we've kind of got a fail-proof plan. And the thing is, it's like, the universe has a way of disrupting even the best laid plans, right? So we can only do what we can do, and there's a certain amount that's out of our control. So I think it's about trusting that you are only able to do so much. So you do the best that you can with the information that you have, and trust that the experiences that you have are going to be, more valuable in teaching you than securing like a specific result would be, if that makes any sense. So it's basically like, it's kind of like if somebody warns you, if you do this, then, it's like, oh, well, if you don't put money into retirement savings, then this is going to happen. And no, not that anyone should be like not saving for their retirement. But, if somebody tells you the consequences of a potential action, it's one thing to just follow along because you're afraid of that consequence, but it's another thing to have the experience and see for yourself like, oh, okay, that doesn't really work for me, or I don't like what happened. So that gives you the motivation to do what you need to do for yourself. And because we are kind of intrinsically motivated, we need to have that connection. So it's kind of like sometimes you just need to have experiences in order to learn, and people can tell you things over and over, but it's not until you have that experience for yourself and you allow yourself to be changed by it that sometimes things will sink in, at least in a more meaningful way. So yeah, I think it's important to just embrace experiences as learning opportunities and know that that's one of the best ways that you can learn, right? So that's really good. The next thing that came through was total shit show, which also made me laugh. And it wasn't like in a really negative, complaining type of way. It was more like a sense of release and acceptance. So it's like maybe there's something in your life that has been a total shit show, or that was a total shit show. Maybe it was a real like pain in the ass and it dragged on for a long time. Who knows? Like however that might apply to you. Anything in your life that you feel like is a shit show. The sense that I get around it is it's like kind of coming to accept that, it is what it is, trying to find a way to accept and release it, to laugh about it, to just recognize that like, wow, who could have known that it would be that much trouble, right? And it's kind of like taking the lesson, allowing yourself to leave behind, lay down your grievances, and then just move forward. So, but there is acknowledgement that like there's something has been a total shit show. The next thing that came through is it will all turn out all right. So that could be a follow-up to the total shit show. This could be related to something that, maybe has been a long-term focus or stress or worries, like a question mark. And it's kind of like you might not know how things are going to turn out or what exactly is going to happen, but there is the sense that, things will work out, and sometimes we just kind of have to sit in uncertainty and not necessarily know how things are going to go, and just be open to opportunities. And then when the right thing comes along, things just fall into place, and it can't necessarily be predicted or controlled. But yeah, it's just having hope that things will work out. And then the next thing, this was really cloudy. It's like something in September or something to do with September, perhaps a certain date, a certain event, an anniversary. I don't know if September has some kind of significance to you, or if, something that you're doing this month has implications on something that might be going on in September. I have no clue how that might apply to you. The next thing that I got was like another kind of like vision, and it was walking down a beach barefoot. So it's kind of like when you're on vacation and you just go for a walk along the beach, and it's kind of like, you're not pressed. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter where you're going. You can walk for as long as you want. And the sunshine is nice and warm, and it's kind of like just being carefree, not being tied to anything. And the sense that I got is like, while you're walking along that beach, it's like, every step you take, it's kind of like leaving your problems and your stress behind you, and then like letting the sun set on it in the evening. So it's kind of like letting yourself release your stress and the things that normally would be kind of like carried on your shoulders or keeping you up at night. And it's kind of just like leaving them out there for the sun to set. It was a very interesting image. But that also could correspond to wanting to go on vacation, or maybe having a vacation planned. And then the last thing that came through, which was very strange, was intro to success. So it's kind of like if there was a college course on how to be successful, like intro to success. So there might be something that's just coming up this month that is going to be kind of like that intro, maybe just the inkling of potential for success, perhaps something that you've been really focused on that has been stagnant. There might be the opportunity for that to pick up, or for something to start moving forward on that. I'm not sure, but I do get the sense that there could be something coming up in that capacity. And that is it for your channeled messages. So we'll get into your cards. Your first oracle card is Yang. And your second one is Receiving. So this is actually very interesting because, well, I'll put these here until we pull out your cards, your other cards. So these are almost opposite energies. Like, they're complementary, but they're almost opposite. So when you think of Yang, it's obviously like yin and yang. And so the whole idea, a lot of times people will think about like light and dark. It can be like masculine and feminine energy. So this is the masculine. This is more like the action. And receiving is kind of the opposite of that. It's like allowing yourself to be open. It's not necessarily taking charge, right? And so the interesting thing is, with this deck, there is a yin card that goes along with the yang, and it's basically saying like, oh, this is a time not to take action. This is allowing other people to take action, other people to step up and to, provide or to show you, and like sitting back and watching and seeing what you can learn, and being open to receiving. And so it's really interesting that the card that would most match the opposite energy to Yang in this deck came up as well. So I think that maybe giving and receiving might be a big thing this month for you, or a big theme could be just balance in general. So balancing like taking action, taking charge, being a leader, getting things done, with also making sure that making sure that you're receiving, making sure that your needs are being met and voiced, making sure that you take time for rest. And so, yeah, I very much get the sense that this is going to be a month of balance, and you might have to do, a lot of checking in with yourself this month to see what kind of energy you're in, to see where you're holding tension or anything that's kind of not sitting well with you, and to kind of figure out, like, am I needing to take action on something, or am I needing to like rest and receive, right? And to be impacted by life. Because yes, this is a very outward, Yang is a very outward facing energy. So it's kind of like being the master of your own destiny, being able to take your ideas and anchor them down into reality, to impact your physical reality, to make things happen and to charge forward. And then receiving is pretty much the opposite of that, right? It's taking time to rest and to turn inward and to kind of check in with yourself and see what life has to offer you, right? And see the way that you're shaped by your life experiences. So that's really neat. So yes, with this Yang energy here, it's kind of like this could be tied to something that you're passionate about. It could be a hobby, a creative outlet. This could be your work, if that applies to you. So basically it's saying like this is the month to take action. If there's something that you feel drawn to do, if you've got an idea that you're wanting to kind of move forward on, it's very much supported. And it's saying kind of like you have the resources that you need, you have the energy that you need. This is the time to take action. Whether or not you're seeing something all the way through to completion, this is at least a good time to start moving things along. So if there's something that you've been waiting on, or something that hasn't been moving forward, an idea that's been incubating, and now you're feeling kind of antsy and ready to go, this is very much like a good month to kind of take charge. And so the other thing with this is like, this can be a very strong leadership role. So it can be leading other people. It can be telling other people what you want, taking charge, particularly if you're dealing with people that are in need of direction, or that don't necessarily have, or they're not necessarily taking initiative. This is a card of initiative. And so you might find yourself kind of having to step in and be the boss, or play the leader, or, maybe even pick up the slack of other people. And this is basically saying like, if those opportunities present themselves, just see that as an opportunity for you to kind of practice your skills. This is a good outlet for you to kind of step into your power and see your ability to influence the world around you, to take things in the direction that you feel they should go. And that's highly supported. But the other thing with this Yang energy is that it's also making sure that we're checking in with ourselves, and we're not getting caught up in, this can be caught up in ego. This can be, being kind of aggressive or overbearing. So it's kind of like taking action is good. We need leadership. We need, people to be firm and to kind of give us direction from time to time. But there's a diplomatic way to do that, especially if there's some kind of like challenge that needs to be overcome, or there's some kind of stress that's complicating a specific situation or dynamic. It's trying to keep things calm, because Yang, this energy, is about accomplishing things and achieving things, but it's about doing so in a really grounded and efficient way. So it's basically like taking that drive and that passion that can turn to frustration or can be mistaken as aggression, and expressing it and channeling it in such a way that you're making things more efficient, right? So for example, if you're a leader, you're leading people the way that they need to be led. So ultimately you're taking action and getting the job done, but it's also keeping in mind how people receive information, how certain people need to be spoken to, what kind of direction that they need. And still being like inclusive as a leader. So it's being a leader, not a dictator kind of thing. So kind of like balancing that out, because this is also a card of having a lot of creative power. So it's kind of like you've got a lot of extra energy to support you in any kind of creative endeavor or outlet, or something that's, you know, important to you, something that kind of sparks your passion. And it's like, if you have that passion and that energy and that enthusiasm for it, and you're given the opportunity to take action on it, it's really just going to, it's really only going to help, right? Because you might as well take that passion that you've got on the inside, take that idea, those ideas, that inspiration, that creativity, however it might apply, and you might as well allow that to guide you in, you know, building something, leading people, you know, moving toward a certain end goal, because it's basically allowing yourself the gift of having that idea or that vision translated into the physical world. And so it's also really important for you to see your creative ability and your ability to, you know, to manifest, essentially, right? So you can take something from an idea and you can use your energy and your enthusiasm to take action in the physical world. And like, we don't really often stop to think about how incredible it is that we can take an idea, something that we imagine, and we can, you know, that's out there in the ether that you can't even quantify, and we can make that real. And that's part of what manifestation is, in the most simple way of addressing it, right? And so it's kind of like your own magic this month. But yes, making sure that you're balancing that energy out, and you're not getting too far, you know, out of yourself. And you're not putting stress or pressure on yourself as a result, right? Because with receiving here, this is the energy that's going to help you balance this out, because this naturally, like passion and enthusiasm, it can be kind of aggressive. It's like meeting those people that are really happy and enthusiastic, but they can almost be too much. So it's like there can be too much of a good thing, and like even if things are positive in nature, they can still be off-putting. And so especially when you get on a roll and you're taking action and driving forward, and it's just like, you know, you can become a bit of a runaway train, and you can burn yourself out as well when it comes to that. So this is about like expending those resources and impacting your external reality, but in an efficient way that's going to be beneficial for everybody, and it's going to be recharging you as well instead of draining you. And so focusing on receiving and your self-care, being in reciprocal relationships, knowing that, yes, of course, it's important to take action and take the lead and take responsibility for certain things, but you shouldn't be the only one doing that. It shouldn't be a weight that falls on you consistently. You should have a supportive network of people that have your back, that if they can't, you know, take the load off, or you know, if you can't delegate to them, then at least people that can be understanding of your needs, give you the opportunity to voice your concerns, whatever that looks like for you. It'll be important for you to really lean into that. And so balancing out, like moving something forward, but also taking care of yourself, because you don't want to compromise yourself, like your mental health, your emotional health, your physical energy. You don't want to be throwing everything into whatever this is and whatever you want to move forward on and whatever you're excited about, to the point that you're draining yourself and neglecting yourself, because that is ultimately just going to slow this down. So this is, receiving is all about the value of rest and recuperation, and that, you know, it is a natural part of life. It's a necessary part of life. It's about releasing any guilt or shame that you have about inaction, about rest. And so this could be a very good month, not only to like step into your power and to be, you know, the shaper of your own life, and to see that kind of taking form in the physical, but also recognizing the value of relaxation. So it's kind of like work hard, play hard, but like work hard, play hard, rest hard as well. Because we often have ingrained in us the value of being hardworking, being focused, being dedicated, going above and beyond, doing everything that needs to be done at all costs. And we look at rest as something that's lazy or unnecessary or like has to be earned, right? And the fact is like rest is an important part of, you know, being able to take action, being able to be effective and efficient. And so perhaps that energy that I was picking up on of like, you know, not being able to concentrate and having a difficult time doing more than one thing at once, it might just be like, if you've got a lot on the go, it just could be draining you, right? So that could be a sign that your energy is being drained. Like if you're getting tired, you're making mistakes, things that normally should be easy are difficult, you're having a hard time focusing or remembering what you're doing. That might be a good indicator for you that you need to just take a rest. And this is about taking a rest and like really intentionally resting. So, you know, stepping away from the desk, closing the laptop, putting down the phone, removing yourself from that energy of whatever it is that's distracting you and giving yourself the opportunity to disconnect from it, like physically, mentally, and emotionally, so that you can fully rest, right? Because there's no point in resting if your mind is still busy and going, right? So it's basically doing whatever you need to do to get into that space where you're efficiently resting and making the most of that so that you can fully be recharged. And then when you step back into this energy, you're going to be more inspired and more effective than you would have been without that rest, right? And the funny thing with yang too is like this can also apply to this premise, this energy can also apply to rest, because this is about doing whatever you're doing, do it with your ultimate, you know, focus and attention to the best of your abilities, your enthusiasm. And so it's like, if you're going to do it right. So that level of focus should apply to whatever you're moving forward on, whatever you're accomplishing, like whatever, however that energy is showing up for you this month, but also like in terms of your rest. So it's like, be serious about that too. But yeah, and so you might be arguing with yourself a little bit, especially if you've got a lot to do or a lot that you're like preparing for. It might be difficult to justify taking a break or having a rest because you're on a roll and it's easier to just keep going and there's lots to be done. But this is basically saying like, it's recognizing that if what's most important to you is doing a good job, having things done accurately and effectively and efficiently, then rest is the best way to ensure that you can continue to operate, because you can't go at 110% all of the time. And you'll just burn yourself out. And chances are, like, if you burn yourself out, you might not even really be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor if and when the time comes, because you're going to be so tired. But yeah, and this is recognizing, like, this is receiving love and support from the people around you. This is receiving help. This is also allowing yourself to enjoy the things that make you happy in life, you know, the things that allow you to feel recharged. So sometimes, you know, sometimes we need physical like rest and inaction. Sometimes rest is, yeah, it's like play. It's doing something that's enjoyable, something that's mindless, that isn't, you know, that's going to help us feel recharged. So it's recognizing that you deserve that is going to be helpful to you, and allowing yourself that time, right? And allowing yourself to benefit from it, so that you can keep, you know, putting in the work. And yeah, I think that it's going to be, like maybe a challenge to recognize also the opportunities for rest and the support that's available to you. And it's like, you know, you are supported, you know, even on a spiritual, on an energetic level. It's like, if things are going in such a way, like you're being guided to rest, it's recognizing that like that is meant for you, that is for your highest good. And yeah, checking in with yourself regularly and saying like, have I been working too long? Am I putting pressure on myself? Do I really want to be doing this? Or do I feel like I should have a break? If I haven't had a break in a while, do I have resistance to taking a break? Do I have resistance to receiving support or help, or like letting somebody else step in and do it for me? And it's kind of paying attention to your inner landscape and allowing yourself to trust what you're feeling, because a lot of the time your mind will say, well, like, no, I can't, I've got to get this done. And so you might be challenged on that level to kind of override maybe those more critical thoughts that aren't necessarily helpful, and to kind of reframe your ideas about work and rest and bring those into better balance this month, especially if it is a very busy month. That is what's going to keep you thriving and, you know, at your best. So we're going to pull your tarot cards this month. Okay. Okay, so your first card is the King of Swords. Your second card is the Nine of Pentacles. Okay. Third card is the Queen of Cups. And your fourth card is the Ace of Wands. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the High Priestess. Okay, so I'm going to get your clarifiers right away, and then I'll read all of the tarot together. So first we'll clarify the King of Swords. Oh, wow. So the King of Swords is clarified by the King of Swords. That is very interesting. We'll clarify the Nine of Pentacles. Clarified by the Ten of Cups. Okay, let's clarify the Queen of Cups. Okay, Queen of Cups is clarified by the Nine of Swords. That's kind of a creepy depiction of the Nine of Swords. I don't think I've seen that one in this deck before. Interesting. Okay, let's clarify Ace of Wands. Oh my gosh, I just dropped a whole bunch of cards. Okay, bear with me here. Okay, let's try this again. Clarifying the Ace of Wands. See, I told you I was having trouble shuffling today, more so than usual. All right, let's clarify this Ace of Wands. This one does not want to come out. The cards keep on, like, getting caught on each other. Okay. So Ace of Wands is clarified by the Eight of Swords. So that's interesting. And then at the bottom of the deck, we have the Star. Yeah, okay, like no wonder I've been feeling kind of like confused. Like there's a lot going on there. You have everything here. You've got Swords, Cups, Pentacles, and Wands. So it's kind of like there's a bunch of different energy influencing what's going on with you. And then you've got the High Priestess and the Star at the bottom of the deck. These are both cards of kind of your connection to yourself, your connection to your intuition, your spirituality, connection to the divine, your ability to kind of find your own path forward, because it's kind of like, we're not all meant to be the same person, to follow the same path. It's kind of like our society likes to kind of act as though there are rules. Like there's a certain way that you have to live your life. There are certain things that you're allowed to do or that you're not allowed to do, or there's a certain formula for success. And the High Priestess is all about saying like, we can all be successful in our own way, and we measure our success and our path based on what's most important to us, what feels right, what we value, what we align with. And so it's kind of recognizing that we have an inner compass that we can follow when we're making decisions and determining what we want to invest our time in, what we want to work toward. And it's kind of like we need to have that connection to ourselves. We need to have that quiet and that inner peace in order to be able to hear that kind of calling of our soul. And that, that determines what actions we'll take, because our own path is unique. So it's kind of like recognizing that, like, we can find our own way through this life. And the star is a card of healing, right? It's healing and hope. It's being able to kind of overcome challenges, to be made stronger, to be able to connect with your inner strength and your inner awareness, and to trust that following your heart and your path and doing your healing work, that is kind of that's kind of part of your destiny. And even though you might encounter difficult situations or challenges or things that are very upsetting, being able to heal from that is part of what, connects you further to your own intuition and allows you to continue along your path. So it's kind of like that is your destiny. That is, it's divinely guided. It's kind of written in the stars, and it's recognizing that, there's a sense of purpose to everything that happens, and that it happens for you so that you can learn and grow. And so this is the energy that's influencing everything. So perhaps that might be a realization or an energy that you've been in, maybe recognizing, maybe having to heal your ideas about, who you're allowed to be, how you're allowed to navigate through life, and what you're allowed to experience, and being willing to let yourself follow your heart a little bit more and connect to a deeper experience instead of just doing things the same old way. So the interesting thing is, like, there is no doubt about this King of Swords, because the Father of Swords in this particular deck is the King of Swords. And there you go. You've got the owls there too. And what's funny is I was shuffling your cards and like doing my kind of ritual. The owl was like standing out to me. It stood out to me on a lot of cards. So owls represent wisdom, connection to our own wisdom, and that, like, wisdom, knowledge is power, right? And in general, like, birds also represent like vision, right? And like having the big picture. And so that's also something to keep in mind. So I don't know, maybe owls will be significant. Maybe keep an eye out for them if they show up for you at all this month. It might be it might be a sign or a synchronicity. But with that being said, the energy that you're being advised to come into this month with is like kind of being firmly rooted in your truth. So everybody has their own personal truth, what's true to them, what they want, things that, like, your morals, your values, things that you're not going to compromise on. This is very much, and so it's kind of like you can agree to disagree. You can be open to other information. And if you allow yourself to be educated, right? But you're only going to change your mind and change your approach if it's something that resonates with you and it's something that makes sense. So it's not being stubborn and closed off to information, but it's trusting your own judgment in terms of kind of disseminating or like digging through the information that's presented to you, knowing how you feel about it and deciding like, yes, this is something that sounds right to me. Let's do that. Or, no, I don't think that's right, or it's at least not right for me. And it's kind of like not sacrificing. So being open to changing your mind, being open to compromise, but not sacrificing your truth or your values, not allowing yourself to be talked down or dissuaded if there's something that is really important to you. And this is like, it's also about if you're in a leadership position. And so the neat thing is, like, this is the masculine energy, right? This is the yang energy. So it's kind of like allowing your own personal truth, your ideas, your belief in how things should be or what's best for you to guide your actions and to kind of put that out there in the world. And it might be in a leadership capacity, but it's also recognizing that you have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge to kind of draw from. It's not just about you and your personal truth, but you're taking in all sorts of information from your external environment, from the people around you. You're taking your intuition into consideration. You're taking emotions into consideration. Like, it's kind of being able to balance all of that out and ruling in a fair way, right? So the King of Swords is a fair ruler, and he values like logic and rationality, but he's not going to make a decision that looks right on paper if it doesn't feel like the right thing to do, or if he knows that it's not right. So it's kind of like being able to sift through all the information that's available to you and trusting that you'll know what's right, and leading people from a place of truth and fairness, right? And this is very much like kind of taking into consideration the decisions that are going to be good for everybody, right? So it's like it's standing up for what's right and what you believe is right without putting anyone else at a disadvantage, taking advantage of anyone else, putting other people down. It's a very fair energy, and it's using your inner wisdom to kind of determine your way forward. So, and this could be also because the sword is about clarity as well as truth. So this could also be about kind of really just tapping into what your truth is and standing firmly in that, right? Especially if you've got people challenging you, especially if you have people telling you that you're wrong or trying to talk you into something that isn't quite right for you. It's not being willing to put yourself in a situation that isn't going to be good for you, especially because it's like if you have the information that you need to know what's right for you and you go against it and you make a decision and then it ends up biting you in the ass, it's kind of like you're just kind of diminishing your relationship to yourself and your trust in yourself, right? And that just makes connecting to and trusting your intuition even more difficult, right? So that's the energy to come into the month. Your challenge, it looks like, is going to be reflected in terms of what you determine to be success and abundance and happiness, like with the things that make you happy. So the Nine of Pentacles is a very solid, abundant, independent energy. So it's kind of like, all of the things that you've worked so hard for, all of the things that you have accomplished. So this could be money, it could be material things, a nice home, it's like the fruits of your labor and being in a position where you can say like, look at all of this work that I've put in over the years. Look at everything I have to show. It's kind of like your legacy, your life. And not only like recognizing it, but allowing yourself to celebrate and appreciate it and to be impacted by it. And for that to come up with the 10 of Cups is like the emotional happily ever after. So it's what you feel will make you the happiest in this life, right? So it's like whatever your wish is, like the one thing that you really want to accomplish, the one thing that you really think is going to bring you a deep level of happiness and fulfillment, that combined, so the emotional abundance and this dream that you're hoping to come true and this material abundance and all of the work that's been put in, that is going to be the challenge for you this month. So that could show up in any way, shape, or form. It could show up in terms of struggles with work or money or savings or your house. It could show up in terms of your connection, like connecting emotional happiness and fulfillment to material abundance. So it could be kind of like evaluating what's most important to you. And so the thing that actually just came to mind is it's like playing to win, right? So it's like, for example, if you're an athlete and you spend your whole life putting in work and, perfecting your craft, for example, like playing soccer, right? If you play soccer your whole life and you're always practicing, you're always playing, you're staying fit, you're putting in the work, you know, you've played on all sorts of teams, you've won trophies. It's like you've got all of this proof of all of this hard work that you've put in. You've got kind of like a reputation for yourself. You're happy with the work that you've put in. And that is deeply tied to your kind of like happily ever after, your emotional fulfillment. But it's like, I'm only going to be happy if all of this effort and all this stuff that I've done translates to a win. Then it's like, if you don't win, then it's like, is all of that effort, is everything that you've achieved to date worthless, right? And does that mean that you can't possibly be happy? So there might be some kind of challenge, around material abundance, hard work, the things that you've been working toward, the expectations that you have, or maybe even conditions that you set on happiness. So it might be worth checking, like, what have you really been working toward, and what do you feel like you've been gaining stability in, and like what you have to show for it, and then how is that tied to your sense of satisfaction and fulfillment? And is that something that can be easily disrupted or taken away from you? Is that really the place that you want to be focusing your efforts and intentions? Is that going to be healthy for you in the long run? So there might be some kind of challenge, some kind of roadblock as to how this wish is fulfilled. And this could also be like expecting the wish to be fulfilled in a very specific way. Right? So it's like, if your dream is to be rich and famous, it might be like, well, specifically, I've been working really hard to become a movie star. So if I become rich and famous, it has to be becoming a movie star. And so I've got to get a starring role in a big film or something, right? And it's kind of saying like, hey, like maybe your material abundance will come through in a different form, or maybe you will become rich and famous, but not in the way that you think. So it's kind of, it can also have to do with, the conditions, the expectations that we put on. This is very much to do with emotional fulfillment, happiness, joy, love, connection, abundance, and like material abundance, and your hard work as well. So however that might resonate for you. And to kind of balance out this energy or move your way through this energy, you're really being advised to connect to your emotions, to be aware of what you're feeling, right? So like the best way to check in on, what that happily ever after is, what is it that you're striving for that is going to bring you that next level of emotional fulfillment? And like, that's the goal, that the next goal to achieve, that's going to make you feel good, like you're solid, before you kind of set your sight on the next goal or the next thing to accomplish, right? So it's being able to take time to sit in your emotions, be aware of your emotions and experience them without being completely swept away in them, and recognize that there's value there. So just like there's value in rest, and this might be something that you only are able to do when you're resting, because it's kind of like being deeply in tune with your emotions, your emotional experience, your emotional body, what that means about your life experiences, how those emotions impact you, how they trigger you. So you can see like she's sitting in the water, and the water represents our emotions and our subconscious. And so it's kind of being able, and it's like she's in a very meditative state, and it very much mirrors this kind of like high priestess energy. And so she's basically channeling those emotions and trying to figure out like, what is that telling her, right? Because we can have emotions that are based out of fear and worry and that are disruptive to us, just like we can have anxious thoughts that are based in fear and worry. And if we let those get away from us, then sometimes they can guide us to make decisions that aren't in our best interest. And then sometimes we have emotions based on things that we know to be right, like gut feelings that we can't necessarily explain. And then when we deny those feelings, we end up thinking our way out of them and trying to rationalize them, and then kind of thinking like, okay, well, it has no place here, right? So basically, this is kind of like not emotional mastery, but like honoring emotions and being able to channel that into whatever you're doing, to get clarity. Because with it coming up with the Nine of Swords, the Nine of Swords is all about like your anxiety, your fears, your worries, the things that keep you up at night. So it's like if you have a hard time getting to sleep, if your mind races, if you have anxiety, if there are thoughts and worries that you're ruminating on that are kind of eating away at you, this is kind of like evaluating those on an emotional level and being able to recognize, like, when you think those thoughts, what emotions come up, and not fighting the emotion or suppressing it or trying to do away with it or discounting it, but really seeing like, okay, if there's an emotion tied to this thought, is it positive or negative? What is it tied to? What is it doing to me? Is it causing me to step further into fear and anxiety and make decisions that I don't feel are right for me? So it's really taking that time to check in with yourself and seeing like what these thoughts that are kind of like, look, it's like it's almost like rotting, right? And so the chances are that your destructive kind of thoughts and unhelpful thoughts might be further fueling like emotional turmoil, and maybe you've been disconnected from those emotions in order to be rational and logical and fair. But it's kind of like, you know, this is part of your power, is taking into consideration what you're feeling, because emotions are markers, you know, for us to investigate what's really going on with us. Emotions are almost like a physical expression of the things that we're thinking and the things that we're experiencing. And it's a really good way to kind of check in how we're being impacted by something and what's important to us. We get emotional about things that are important to us. And so it's basically like kind of taking your power back when it comes to your feelings about the anxious thoughts, and recognizing that you can rise above it, even if it like triggers something emotional or negative in you. It's kind of like you have the strength and the ability to sit in those emotions and to work your way through them so that you're not completely thrown off track. And the neat thing is the highest possible outcome for this month is almost like a renewed spark and enthusiasm. So it's like maybe being able to express this yang energy, to take action, to take inspired action, to take your ideas and create them in the real world, to bring them down into reality, and to see everything that you're capable of doing while you're kind of working through, you know, while you're confident in knowing what's best for you, and you're working through your emotions and letting go of the things that are causing you issues, right? Like these things are not your personal truth. These are the things that disrupt you. They can sabotage you. They can make you fearful. And so it's kind of like by working through that, you might have the opportunity to connect with a completely new perspective on the things that you're passionate and enthusiastic about. There might be a new beginning in terms of your creative outlet, or your, you know, however you take action on your inspiration and whatever that is, however that kind of shows up in your life on a day-to-day basis. It's like there's an opportunity for a new beginning, like something new starting there, and like a renewed kind of passion and enthusiasm for whatever it is that you're doing. And so, yeah, it might just also be like letting go of the pain and the suffering and the emotions of like the things that haven't worked out in the past, in order to connect with this new opportunity. And for it to come up with the Eight of Swords, the Eight of Swords is about how our thoughts and our beliefs and our perceptions can be unhealthy, and they can be limiting, and they can keep us stuck. And this card has been coming up a lot this month so far. And so the interesting thing is, you can see this butterfly is fully formed. It's ready to leave the chrysalis, but it's not leaving because of the swords surrounding it. So it thinks it's in danger. It thinks it can't escape. You know, it thinks it's stuck. And because it thinks it's stuck, it is stuck. And the thing is, it's like a lot of times we don't know our limitations until we take action and test them. We can think about them all day, and we can kind of like talk ourselves into being fearful and not taking action. And then it's almost like that's a safe place to be, because if we never take action, then we'll never really know, right? Whereas if we test and see like, hey, am I really in danger? Is this really a problem? Or is it just something that I've created in my mind because I'm stressed out about it? If you allow yourself to kind of step out of that cocoon and see, you could end up flourishing and living a wonderful, beautiful life. And when you make that decision, you realize how your mind can trap you in beliefs that are not necessarily true or not necessarily healthy, and how fear can kind of keep you stuck and closed off. And so this could also be like fear about expressing yourself, connecting to the things that you're passionate about, fear about like whether or not you'll have the opportunity to do whatever it is that's most important to you, and to kind of like have this creative outlet or kind of like renewal. For these are the things that you're passionate about, that light you up, that you know that you feel drawn to, and that are going to kind of keep you recharged, right? That is very much this energy. And so it could be like negative thoughts or limiting beliefs about how that can manifest for you, or you know, if you're allowed to do that, right? So anything that's holding you back from really truly expressing yourself and connecting to the things that are most important to you in an authentic way, and like living a life that's driven by passion, being able to have that energy within you and express it outward, right? Because the thing is with this energy, same with this, it can be volatile. It's like fire, it's passion, it's enthusiasm. And when we express that and we allow that to transform life in a creative, positive way, it can build really beautiful things, and it can bring us a lot of satisfaction. But if we ignore it or we suppress it, it doesn't disappear. It just kind of builds up, and then we explode. Right? So it's kind of like that energy is within you no matter what, and it's longing to be expressed. And if you don't find a healthy outlet for it, like sometimes it can manifest as anger or frustration, you know? And so it's kind of like recognizing that spark is there and using it to your advantage to create a life that's fulfilling, instead of kind of like torturing yourself by keeping it in and you know, burning on the inside, right? But yes, so this has to do with any kind of thoughts, fears, limiting beliefs, things that you've been told. It could be past experiences that didn't work out. It's the things that are keeping you stuck, the things that you're saying and thinking to yourself that are keeping you stuck. And there's the opportunity for that to kind of be burned away, and for you to have a new perspective and a new opportunity to kind of move forward in this creative way. So I think that's really awesome. I'm going to get your affirmations. So we'll try to get you 4 affirmations. Oh, there's a couple there. And then we will pull out one final oracle card that I'll read from the book. Okay, so your first affirmation: relationships are assignments for optimal growth and healing. So keep in mind interpersonal interactions. So this is like keeping balance in your own life, keeping balance in your relationships, recognizing that, you know, positive opportunities in relationships are meant to help you grow and to see the good in you. Challenging aspects of relationships are meant to help you with your healing and your self-awareness. So, you know, that's a big theme. I release my need to be perfect, and I center into my commitment to serve the world more love. Yeah, so this is kind of like, you know, when you take action with this energy from an energy and a place of love, right? And emotional awareness and truth and fairness, that's going to be beneficial not only to you, but to everyone else. And so it's like not stifling yourself, not stifling your authenticity, and not doing things the way that you've been told you have to, but finding your own way and allowing yourself to kind of share that with other people. Okay, I surrender my desires and know the universe has my back. So yeah, I think that's really important to know that it's kind of like what I said at the beginning. You take action, you take inspired action, you balance this, you know, driving energy with rest. And, you know, all you can do is your best, right? And this has a lot to do with how you're taking action in the external world, but also checking in with yourself and doing your inner work, knowing what's true for you, and kind of trusting that when you're in your power and you're doing what you need to do, and you're connecting with the opportunities that are available to you, things are working out for you, and there's a certain amount of trust that's needed, right? That kind of, it's all for your highest good. And then the moment I begin to celebrate myself and focus on my successes is the moment I begin living. And so that could also speak to the challenge for this month, which is related to, success and abundance in the material realm, and success and abundance and fulfillment and happiness like in the emotional realm as well. So it could just be your ideas about success, what's true for you. So maybe you've been taught to measure success by a certain standard, and that's not what's true for you. And so it's like by recognizing all of the things that you've accomplished, all of the things that are important to you, set your own definition for success and start appreciating everything that you've been able to accomplish. And that's what's really going to allow you to have, you know, more happiness and more meaning in your life, because it's like you're living life, you know, for yourself ultimately. So you get to decide what success looks like and feels like, and you get to be proud of yourself for everything that you've accomplished as you continue on your path to connect with more, right? So we'll get you your final, oracle card, which I will read directly from the guidebook. All right, just to tie everything together. I love doing this because it's fun to see what kind of like themes come out, if any, or if the themes are repeated, or if there's like additional kind of perspective or clarification on a specific energy that's really shown up in the reading. There must be a very specific card here waiting for you, because this is taking quite a while. Okay, let's get the oracle card. Tie everything up. Okay, you have Keepers of the Earth, and it says, you are not alone, ancient ancestors stand beside you. Okay, so bear with me a moment. I just have to find this in the guidebook. Okay, so Keepers of the Earth, you are not alone, ancient ancestors stand beside you. You are so supported. You do not stand alone. You have a magnificent team of helpers, both in this world and of the earth, who are here to help you every step of the way. Call upon them for assistance. They're here to help. The Keepers of the Earth acknowledge the work that you have done already and are ready to work through you. They bow at your feet and thank you for wanting to stand for them, to devote your life to protecting the earth in your unique way. It is time to increase your capacity to receive support in the physical realm. This can come in the form of financial abundance, acts of service from strangers, or people flocking to help you and your work. The only thing that is stopping you right now is your capacity to receive support. You deserve to be rewarded for the work that you are doing. You do not need to go it alone. Call upon the Keepers of the Earth to help you and your mission. Open your heart and your mind to receiving more than you ever thought possible. What kind of support do you need? Call it in right away. And then there's actually an activation. So it says to hold the card on your heart and say the following words, but you can just look at if you want to do this, you can just look at the card. Let me see here. So it says, I am open to receiving a whole new level of support for my life and my work, and I call it in now. And then it says to include any other specific requests, and then thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's really nice, because this is exactly what this card is about. You know, because this card basically says, like, there's a lot of stuff about like spiritual support in the world of the unseen, like, you know, your ancestors, your guides are there supporting you, and then being able to receive help and support, you know, spiritually, energetically, and physically. So that really is emphasizing that it's going to be, if it's something that you have a hard time with, that might be a challenge for you this month, is just allowing yourself to kind of step into that energy. But Gemini, that is your reading. I am very happy with how that turned out. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please do like this video. Definitely leave me a comment if you are interested. If there's anyone that you think might be interested in my content, please feel free to share it with them. And if you haven't already, you can hop on over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot and check out some of my other readings. Definitely make sure you hit subscribe so you can stay up to date on new videos as they're posted. And Gemini, it was wonderful reading for you today. Thank you for sharing this time and space with me. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm looking forward to reading for you again next month. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.